It's been a year, I think, that we've been doing this meetup, and it seems like a good past, perhaps even past due time to talk a little bit about other systems that do what Claris Connect does, and kind of do a little bit of compare and contrast and discussion about the different options that are out there. So I want to emphasize that I'm not an expert on all of these, or necessarily any of them. I've done some research on the net and some studying, and I'm actually working on a blog post that we're going to publish on our blog sometime in the next, if things go smoothly, before the end of the month, otherwise maybe next month. So if you're not subscribing to our newsletter already, you might go to our website and do that if you're interested in seeing that blog post when it comes out. And so this Connect Meetup presentation or discussion is sort of centered around what I've been looking at in that blog post. So I'm hopefully everybody will feel comfortable to jump in with comments. If anybody's worked with any of the systems I'm going to talk about, I've worked with Connect a fair amount and with Zapier just a little bit. And some of the other ones I'm going to mention I haven't worked with at all. So I appreciate any input. Please dive in with questions or comments as I'm talking. So one of the first things I was looking at as I was researching this a bit was, how to start the blog post, what kind of introductory paragraph to write. And so I was kind of looking at what the product category. I know that Claris Connect and Zapier are competitors in this market space. And I know there's other products in this arena, and I was looking at how to categorize them and what product categories G2 or other websites that are reviewing and comparing and contrasting different technology products, where they're putting Connect. And so the official category that Connect is in is called iPaaS, Integration Product as a Service, or Integration Platform as a Service. So these are a variety of platforms that are allowing you to integrate disparate systems into a workflow or an automation. The one of the things that I found a little bit interesting is as I was looking at that is how broad the iPaaS category is. Connect is occupying one niche in it. It's a fairly big niche, in that it's attempting to help you integrate, a lot of different potential systems into different workflows. But I was looking at that and thinking that my brother-in-law is actually in the business of a very much narrower niche in the iPaaS world. His company is integrating the products of just accounting providers in order to create an integrated system for doing accounts receivable management and tying it into your accounting staff's email boxes. So they've created, at least in theory, they could have used Claris Connect or one of the other broader iPaaS systems to create their solution. But obviously they, for a variety of good reasons, they didn't do that. But they're basically doing the same sort of thing that Claris Connect is doing, which is taking all these publicly available APIs and giving you a good way to integrate the data between them for a particular purpose. So there's a lot of different applications out there that are doing this iPaaS sort of thing. For purposes of this discussion, I'm mostly kind of looking at Claris Connect and Zapier, and I'm going to mention a little bit in passing three other ones that I've taken a little bit of a look at. The first one is If This Then That. Their website is IFTTT. And then two other ones, Integromat and Workato, were a couple others that I took a quick look at. And the first thing I was kind of looking at was comparing cost a little bit. Not necessarily the most important basis for comparison on these systems, but a place to start for comparison purposes. So I'm going to share my screen a little bit and show what I've been putting together. One of the things that makes these systems a little bit hard to look at together is terminology. This grid that I have on the screen is a basic grid of costs for Claris Connect, what the monthly cost is, how many API requests that includes, and the number of flows that you can write. We all know what a flow is in Claris Connect, I think, but each of the other systems calls what you create with them a different thing. Connect calls it a flow, Zapier calls it a zap. One of the other systems, and I forget which, calls it a recipe. So they have different names for what a flow is, and they have different ways of controlling, of segmenting the user base and controlling what we're paying. Claris is using API requests as the differentiator here. If I go down and look at Zapier, they're also using API requests. Their pricing is pretty similar. One of the differences for FileMaker anyway is that the FM Plus license, which I think probably a lot of us would be using, is pretty attractive for FileMaker developers in particular. The IFTTT iPaaS system is a little bit different. It's trying a little bit less to be a general purpose business platform and a little bit more to be a platform for high-end consumers trying to integrate things like their robot vacuum cleaner with their Amazon Echo implementation. It has a lot of information on its site about integrating different APIs for high-end consumer and that kind of marketplace. And then I haven't put together a grid yet, and I may not for this blog post about Integromat and Workato, but they're a little bit similar in terms of their pricing. Workato's targeting a little bit higher point in the marketplace, trying to give you a head start on some of the different automations you can do. And I haven't been able to get pricing on that. They're one of those companies that won't give you pricing unless you schedule a demo with them, unfortunately.
Hey, John, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please jump in.
So would you say that Zapier is the biggest fish in this particular sea?
I think so. As far as I can tell from poking around at everything, they're definitely the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah, so I wonder if they're sort of the ones kind of setting the standards on pricing that people measure up against.
I think that's a reasonable guess at what's going on here. I didn't put it in here, but the Integromat pricing isn't all that different than what we're looking at here as well. I think obviously each of these vendors is looking at the competitive landscape and deciding where to slot themselves in. And I think you're right. Probably Zapier's has a lot more influence over that than some of the other vendors do. You know, from my perspective, looking at these different systems, Claris Connect has one big obvious advantage, and that is that for me as a FileMaker developer, the integration between the two platforms is tight, works really well. If I have a situation where I need the on-premise agent, that's a capability that you have with Claris Connect that you're not going to have with other platforms. In different environments, the ability to integrate tightly with your Claris ID and use single sign-on may be a big advantage. So there's some real advantages to Connect as a FileMaker developer, for sure. And on the Zapier side, the obvious big advantage is they just have a lot of connectors. I'm probably repeating things everybody knows on this point, but Connect is fairly new in the market. Zapier has been around longer, and if you have some obscure integration that you want to do, it's going to be more likely that Zapier has a connector for you to use currently than Connect. And then if you're looking for a more consumer product related API, then that's also going to be a good direction to look for that. One tool that's available for Zapier that's I didn't find anything for any of the other platforms is a way to manage the integration of data between Zapier and FileMaker in somewhat the way Claris Connect allows you to do. The FM gateway for Zapier that Paradise Partners puts out is a third-party tool that can allow you to integrate your database engine, your FileMaker database engine, into your Zapier workflows or your Zaps in somewhat the same way that you can do that with FileMaker Server in your Claris Connect workflows. So I think for a Claris developer or for a FileMaker developer, it's hard to beat Connect's tight integration. Second to that, Zapier gateway by Paradise Partners gives you some good capabilities with Zapier. And beyond that, I didn't find much reference to anybody in the FileMaker community integrating with any of these other iPaaS systems. So I'm hard pressed to see how easy that would be without those tools being available. Let's see here. One area that is, I think, pretty confusing, and I'm not sure that I have the best handle on it as yet, is this whole idea of update times that Zapier and some of the other gateway or some of the other iPaaS systems talk about in their pricing and materials. Zapier, you can see here, has a 1-minute update time for its more expensive offerings and the 15-minute update time for the less expensive. I think this is already a little bit out of date. I think they've changed that so that the update time on the Pro account is 2 minutes. We've used Claris Connect to develop some workflows for our own internal purposes and have been really happy to find near real-time responses. So we've been able to integrate Claris Connect into a workflow, into a real-world workflow, and have the response, Claris Connect do its part of the job in near real time, effectively real time in terms of being able to do the task while Claris Connect keeps up with you. And so this concept of a 15-minute update is an important one in my opinion, and what exactly it means. And despite some research, I've had a little bit of a hard time determining what exactly that means. Zapier calls it a polling interval, and they have some connectors. They say they quote this number, and they have some connectors, some actions in their connectors that have the word instant by them, and those connectors, those actions are not subject to this time limit or this update limit. So if you create a Zap in Zapier and you use a trigger that has the word instant by it, then it does happen in near real time. If you use a trigger that does not, then it is subject to these time limits. And the exact situations where you have this time limit causing you a delay versus not are a little bit unclear to me. I could speculate, but that's all it would be speculation. But that update time.
John, could I provide some?
Sure.
Provide some clarification on that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and this is one of the big differences with Claris Connect. So these update times, what they mean is that those triggers are based on a polling system as opposed to a webhook. So what that means is that it's going to, instead of it like kind of the old way, and we've had this explained here in one of the sessions before. Basically, Zapier is contacting the other app in intervals of time, say, hey, has anything changed? Hey, has anything changed? It's just asking, going back and forth, and that's what these numbers are. So how frequent does it ask the third-party app if there's any changes? Are those intervals? The ones that say instant are the ones that are based off of webhooks, in which it's the opposite. It's a third party. You register a URL with a third party, and that third party sends Zapier a notification that that an event has occurred. So the majority of their triggers are polling. That's why they have a label for those that are instant, because those are fewer. Claris Connect is the opposite. We, as a matter of fact, today we don't have any polling triggers. All of our triggers are based on webhooks. So all of our triggers are instant. That's why you see that instant response in Claris Connect. I hope that makes a little sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's exactly what I've been speculating. speculating. I despite a decent amount of looking around on Zapier's website and just general Googling, I had a hard time finding a real definitive description like you just gave. So I appreciate that. And that's exactly what I had kind of come to the conclusion of, is that the instant ones must be webhook based, and the other ones perhaps or something else. So that's I really appreciate that clarification. Thank you. So that's an area to be aware of for sure when developing workflows or zaps or whatever. Is that where no webhook exists, they're trying to create a real-time flow is going to be not really possible. And with that's kind of a quick overview of what I've been looking at and comparing the different tools. Can I answer any questions? Anybody have any input on?
Well, just on this delay, the product that is out there that allows FileMaker to connect with Zapier, and the name escapes me at the second. I'm sorry about that.
FM Gateway.
FM Gateway. I'm wondering if that's a webhook, because I've never experienced any delays using it.
Yeah, I think my guess is that FM Gateway Zapier is giving you a FileMaker connector for your Zap. So my guess is that if your Zap is utilizing a connector for whatever system you're integrating with, if that one is not webhook based, then you might be subject to the limit. It seems to me the limit there isn't so much FM Gateway Zapier as the trigger for whatever site you're integrating with.
Okay.
I think because we were playing around with it a little bit yesterday, and using a teamwork trigger in Zapier, and we were trying to figure out why were we not seeing this limit, and it took us a couple of minutes. We were going back and forth, and it's like, oh, there's the word instant. we hadn't noticed the word instant next to the trigger in Zapier.
So you guys have been using FM Gateway?
No, we haven't been using that yet, and I don't know for sure if we will. But we were just experimenting around, trying to understand better what this update time meant.
Oh, okay.
And so we were implementing a real quick Zap and Zapier that all we were doing was creating a Zap that was triggered off a task creation in Teamwork and sent a Slack message when it saw that.
So you're bypassing FileMaker altogether.
Yeah, we weren't using FileMaker for that. I wouldn't rule out using FM Gateway Zapier. I like Claris Connect because Claris is the developer of FileMaker and the developer of Connect, and I have a better confidence about the long-term support and viability. On the other hand, Zapier has 3,000 connectors, so the time may come where we use FM Gateway Zapier for something. I wouldn't really, for our own purposes, I wouldn't entirely rule out a workflow that involved both Zapier and Connect. There's no reason not to do something like that. If you've got accounts in both systems and for some reason you want to deal with something in Zapier for one thing and Connect for something different. Any other comments, questions?
I was just looking at the pricing a little bit more because I was curious, because one thing that jumps out to me is that, Claris Connect doesn't have a free level the same way Zapier. I mean, it seems like all of them have a free plan, but then I went and I looked at the Zapier free plan, and kind of what's missing from this is like, what exactly, I mean, those are the API requests you're getting, but there's other limits. So if you're on their free plan, you can only do single step zaps. So I think that means just like this, it's just the trigger and an action, right? So it's not going to be multi-step. So that's another limitation that I think, oh, well, maybe you'd want to have a free plan, but I don't know exactly. I mean, I think there's use cases, but it's just another kind of consideration about what kind of features you're getting. Because then even with the starter plan, it says you're limited to 3 premium apps. I don't know what premium apps are. Are those, and that's the difference with Claris Connect, because we are not limited by what we can use any app. We can use any webhook. Yeah, you only get webhooks if you have the starter plan. So with the free plan with Zapier, you can't use webhooks. So kind of interesting to look into the more nuanced differences between these, because it does seem like they're also unique in how they're priced and features and
Right.
and the other thing I was going to say about the price was that monthly cost for Zapier is based on an annual subscription, and there's a different price if you go month to month. I don't know who would. I mean, most people are going to go annual, and I think Claris Connect, that's the annual price. So I guess this is comparing apples to apples right here, but just to clarify that as well. I don't know if Claris Connect has a monthly subscription.
I don't think there is a
We do not.
Yeah.
No, it's billed annually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the 100 API request limit on the free account for Zapier, you're going to blow through that so fast. Hard to see how that would be super useful, but of course, depending on what you're doing, I'm not sure 500 will last you a lot longer.